good that oftentimes she knew the sin even before it was confessed, or on good days, before it was even committed. "Don't you go hanging out with them fools drinking and getting high," she'd warn a few students as they fled the building after school had let out. "I don't want to see you in my office for not turning in your project that's due tomorrow. So cut that television off tonight and get to work," she'd say to others. "I don't care if it is the season finale of American Idol." I mean, this woman was so good that one time this white chick named Theta was simply walking down the hall, and Ms. Coleman pulled her to the side and asked her to come into her office so she could talk to her in private. Theta's bottom barely hit the chair before Ms. Coleman outright asked her, "How long have you had it, and have you been to see a doctor?" Theta burst out crying. Thanks to the bionic ears of Sonia, a junior who worked in the office and happened to hear everything that was being said, before Theta even walked out of Ms. Coleman's office, the entire school knew that Theta had caught herpes from her boyfriend Jason. Now here I sat, just as Theta had, only my problem was different. When I saw Ms. Coleman standing outside her office greeting students, I almost turned around and went another way. I figured she sensed something was up with me just by looking at me. That is why I'd gripped my school books for dear life, looked straight down, and tried to make a beeline to my next class. But in all honesty, when I heard her call out my name, I felt a sense of relief. I had already made it up in my mind that it was time to confide in someone. That someone had just happened to have been Miss Coleman. Only I still needed to juice myself up with courage. I would have avoided her if she hadn't called out to me, but since she did, there was no need in putting it off. I needed someone to confide in, and Miss Coleman was the only one I could turn to. Just sitting here in Miss Coleman's office thinking about the mess I was now caught up in made me sick to my stomach. I could taste the vomit in the back of my throat, and a few beads of sweat formed on my forehead. It felt like the heat had been turned up to sweltering, and I shifted uncomfortably in my seat. Tears built in my eyes, and I wiped them away quickly. Sitting here gave a new meaning to sitting in the hot seat. "Asia, what's wrong? Are you okay?" The concern that Miss Coleman displayed in her tone of voice was the exact reason why I had decided to tell her the secret I held. Miss Coleman was cool with all of the students at Cass High. At only 27 years of age, she was the youngest teacher in the school. When she had introduced herself on the first day of school, she told us about how she'd graduated high school at only 16 and a half, went on to college from there, and how she'd been in the school system ever since graduating college. She was so inspiring. Almost all the girls at Cass High wanted to be like her. Of course, all the boys wanted to date her. Miss Coleman was cool like that. She always made it a point to speak to the students whenever she saw us in the halls. She even invited us to have lunch in her office whenever we felt like it. I was comfortable around her. I respected her and I trusted her more than any other adult that I knew. "I need help, Miss Coleman," I finally replied. My usual confident swagger was reduced by insecurity and fear of the unknown. "What's going on?" Miss Coleman replied with her usual vibrancy and Colgate smile. This was her attempt to not look so worried, but the same way she had probably already peeped my game, I had peeped hers. She was a genuine counselor, and she was genuinely concerned. She had a motherly aura about her. Yet she was still young enough to understand me. That is why I looked up to her so much. She wasn't stuffy like most adults, but laid back and chill. Anytime I had ever gone to Miss Coleman about things that were going on in my life, she had never judged me. Instead, she listened with an open ear, mind, and heart. She was so cool that I would have hung out with her after school. "I'm in trouble," I admitted. I became emotional, and my words stumbled out of my mouth clumsily as my emotions tried to reveal themselves.